All right, here's a pop quiz for you. What is a piece of equipment that you're gonna pretty much need all the time when you're shooting? You don't really think about it? Hate to tell you, it's a good old-fashioned monopod. And a monopod is one of those pieces of equipment that if you're doing any kind of professional shooting, you're gonna find yourself needing to get one. And take it from me, from some hard lessons of experience, you only wanna buy one monopod. Do not cheap out on a monopod. It's one of those pieces of equipment, you only need one of them, and you want it to last a long time. Now, what's really interesting about this is that iFootage made the Cobra 2 a little while back. I did a review on it. It was a fantastic monopod. And honestly, it was the most incredible monopod I've ever seen. That was the one that I thought, if you need to buy one monopod for your life, get that Cobra 2 monopod. But iFootage recently sent me these two monopods, the Cobra 3. And what's really interesting about this is they're taking what I considered already an almost perfect monopod, and they're trying to improve it. So let's go ahead and take a real quick look at these monopods and see what they can do. But before I get into this monopod, I think the first thing I'd like to talk about, if you are thinking about a monopod, is why in the heck do you even need a monopod? And really the first thing I like to say is location flexibility. You're gonna find yourself shooting in many locations that have limitations on tripods or other gears you can go to. This means venues like concerts, museums, and really the only way you're going to be able to get a stabilized system in those venues that are very, very restrictive is going to be with a monopod. Another area where a monopod is super helpful is actually travel flexibility. Now, if you get a good monopod, you can actually use it as a travel system. And the thing about these iFootage monopods that makes them so amazing is they are so stable with their feet on the bottom that I've actually been able to get away with them as kind of using them as a travel tripod. And the good news is, if you look at this from a travel perspective, man, this thing breaks down so incredibly small. I can slip this in my bag and it just goes with me much, much easier than a travel tripod would. Another area of flexibility that I use a monopod for all the time is actually going to be 360 imagery. Because if you want to do any kind of 360 imagery, which is something that I find my clients wanting more and more these days, you're going to need a monopod. And you want a monopod you can trust to put when you walk in a room, set that 360 cam and walk out of control with your phone. You need something you can trust your equipment on that's not going to fall from break. Now, all that being said, the Cobra 2 was an almost perfect monopod. So the question really comes down to, where did iFootage improve on the Cobra 3? And is it worth the upgrade? And the first thing you're going to see is that actually it's the base. You can really see here, this is the Cobra 2 and this is the Cobra 3, you can see just how much bigger that base is for the Cobra 3. And let's be honest, that's going to add added stability and make this monopod even more reliable than it was before. The other thing is it's just a little bit thinner. If you hold these two side by side, the Cobra 3 is just a little thinner, which is nice for traveling, throwing in your car, or throwing in suitcases. Now, the Cobra 3 does come in two major configurations, and it depends on what you want for weight and price. One is going to be aluminum, and the other is going to be carbon fiber. Now, the aluminum is going to be a little bit heavier, and it is going to have a hydrostatic ball here on the bottom that allows you to change the angle and float with the monopod. But I do think the single biggest area of improvement in the Cobra 3 over the Cobra 2 is actually the optional pedal base option. Now, this thing is really, really cool. Now, traditionally in monopods, what you want to do, if you want to loosen your base, so it'll have a knob here, you can loosen it, and it'll allow you to go in and dial it in. And then if you want to tighten it back up, you got to come back down here and tighten it up and do that. You still got to bend over and do all that stuff with the camera. Here's the cool thing about the Cobra 3. It has this foot pedal right here. So if you push it down, you can easily push it down, and look at that. Get what you want, super, super easy. You can go back down, push it back up, and boom, it'll lock into place. You don't need to get down on the ground or use your hands or try and use your foot to dial in the lock. This is a major upgrade for me on this monopod, and that alone almost makes me want to justify the price, because I find myself so much when I'm out in the field putting this stuff out there and just having that ability to float and get your ankle, and then just to have your foot there, you can pop it back up, and boom, it pops right back in place. Now, all that being said, while I do love the foot pedal here and the flexibility it goes, it does have a more limited range of movement than the traditional hydrostatic base. Now, the classic base, if you take a look here, I'll go ahead and loosen this up. This does have a 90-degree angle, so you can actually get this sucker all the way down the ground. So if you're someone that really wants that range of motion, you absolutely have that option. But the best part about this whole iFootage system is it is modular. So you can actually go ahead and buy two different bases if you want to, without having to go and buy a whole second monopod. So let's say you love this monopod, or maybe sometimes you want to have the different feet, you can buy just that foot base and have different ones. That's a really, really good option to have that flexibility. Once again, re-emphasizing the fact you should only ever buy one monopod and you're going to use that for years. So get a good one. And this one really gives you tons of flexibility that comes with it. Now I've talked about the feet on this thing. The other thing that I absolutely really love on any system I want is the snap locks. Like these snap locks are fantastic. And you can see just how tall this monopod is. I talked about needing to use these in concerts. Well, here you go. This is exactly where one of those things you're going to want to use in a monopod. If you're in a situation in a crowd, this will get you easily above the crowd. And look at how little real estate it takes. It means I can be in a tight crowd. Let's say I'm in a concert venue or a crowded event, and this is my footprint. I don't have a giant tripod spread. Really, really useful for a monopod. And the snap locks are really tight, really, really smooth. And I've used my monopod on hundreds of shoots now. They really don't loosen up. Now, that being said, if you are a twist lock shooter and you just love twist locks, they do make a version of this that does have twist locks as well. So one of those things, if you're looking for twist locks, you can get it. But I would personally recommend using these snap locks. They are fantastic. They stay tight forever. Man, I just can't say enough good things about this monopod. Now, I do want to talk about one of my favorite things about this monopod. Yes, this monopod is extremely well built. It is extremely sturdy. It is extremely light. But I'm going to show you what I consider one of my favorite parts of it. It's not just a monopod. You can turn this into a monopod and a hi-hat, and it's super fast. And I'll show you why. It's all because of this. They have a quick release head here on the monopod. It's really simple. You pop it down, boom. The head can pop off. You can pop it back in there, and boom, the head is back on. So you can literally jump this thing on and off your monopod super fast. And here's where it really comes in handy. I'm going to pop my head off right here. And check this out. There's another lock down here. So if I pop this off, monopod comes off. Now it's just a straight up monopod. But now I can take it, pop this on, and boom. Now I have a hi-hat. And I love it. I can set this down on the ground. It just lives there, ready to go. I've used this all the time on shoots. It's one of my favorite features, having this ability to get my shots low to the ground and be super stable. I love getting low shots. And the best part is when I'm done, I can literally sit there, I'll pick this up, I'll just pop this back off. I'll put it right back here, boom, on the monopod. There you go, it's good to go. And now I can take my head, put it back on here, boom, I'm good to go. And once again, I have a monopod from a hi-hat. Another really cool small feature about this is actually on the top here, you can put a head on, but what I like about it, it's got a 3/8 screw up here, but if you push it down, it becomes a 1/4 inch. It's all right there. It's all part of one system. That top screw puts down. So that means if I had something like a tripod head, I can easily put a tripod head on the 3/8 screw. But let's say I have something small in here, like say a 360 camera that has a 1/4 inch mount. I can take that, pop off this head, and you just easily throw my camera on there. I'm not worrying about screws. I'm not worrying about flipping things around. It's just all built into it. It's just one of those small little things that you're going to want to have. And if you have a monopod, that's the kind of things you need to have. That simplicity makes your life a lot better. Now, I do want to talk about one other feature about this monopod that I think makes it such a good system, and that is the removable head. Now, this is the Komodo head that comes for the iFootage monopod. This is a nice little head. I've gone as far as putting up the C300s with big Canon Cine lenses on there, and it has had no problem handling the weight. Now, whenever I do a review of anything, I do like to point out if there are any cons in the system. And this one is actually really hard for me because I just have a hard time finding any cons with this system. I'll be honest, I thought the iFootage Cobra 2 was pretty much a perfect monopod, but this one actually makes it even better. The wider base is very appreciative. I do feel like I can actually set a camera up on this and let it kind of freestand like that. I love the fact that I can take this from a monopod to a hi-hat, and I really do like it. The only con I would say is some people may find the wrist strap here a little in the way, but you can take that off, so that's not really a problem. And sometimes now, the locking system, you just got to give it a good push to get in there, just to make sure you're on there. I thought the old locking system was maybe a little bit easier to do, but once you realize you have to push that down, that's really the only thing. Not really a con, it's just something to be aware of when you're going in using the system. But anyway, guys, this is one product that I really honestly feel is the best of the system out there. I've not come across any kind of monopod that I think is actually better than the Cobra 2 or the Cobra 3. And it's one of those things, if you're thinking about getting a monopod, just buy it once. Don't spend a bunch of money over and over getting monopods that don't work for you. Anyway, guys, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Leave me any notes and comments down below. And yeah, I got to keep on shooting. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.